Hello, hello.
Oh my
Welcome,
gosh.
everyone. Look who we have. We have the wonderful Tina Wisdom here from UE. You will know her from Inside Unreal. We had our end of year live stream. If you missed it, you must check it out. Was that last week, Tina? Was that only a
It
week ago?
was. It was last Thursday. It was. Not even.
That's so
Less than a
funny.
week ago.
Ugh, that's wild.
About a week ago. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, welcome Tina. We're so excited to have Tina here. So, we thought it would be exciting if we brought Tina on because we have special guests here today who have worked both in Unreal Engine and in UEFN. And yeah, we're going to have some awesome conversation. They're going to show us a lot about how they make the awesome experiences they do in detail. So, for those of you here who are curious to learn, we're so excited. We'll have Future Trash, aka the creators of FODE, fully operational annihilation device. I think I got it. That's
Hold on.
I think that was my brain had to pull from the recesses of right around pre-holiday. So if I got it right, that would be. I'm hoping for that. Welcome everyone who's in chat. I see so many great faces. Yes, it's a crossover episode. That's right, Josh. And we have so much to cover today. I actually want to take a moment, if you're okay, Tina. I also want to shout out here, as with everyone pretty much right now, Tina's a little bit under the weather. So much love for Tina in chat. Give Tina some love because she's feeling a little sicky, but she's here. And we're so thankful to have her anyway. Tina, you didn't have to come, but I'm so glad you're joining us. Could you give
I would never miss
for
it.
those oh bless. Could you give those of us here who might not know who you are a little bit of a background on you, a little introduction? I'm sure they would love to know.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, of course. Hi everyone.
All right, mommy.
I am Tina Wisdom. Yeah, it's no. Let's move on. But I'm Tina Wisdom. I am another community manager here at Epic Games. I mostly work with Unreal Engine specifically and Unreal Engine developers. I host a weekly show that we run over on the Unreal Engine channel called Inside Unreal, which is not dissimilar to this one. So if y'all like this show, I'm gonna shamelessly plug that one and ask you to go check that out sometime. We stream it every week on Thursday. Well, every week starting, we're going to stop for a little bit for the holidays, but we'll be back in January.
Good catch. And same here.
Yeah, we'll be back January 11th. So if you enjoy that, maybe you might like it over there as well. There's a lot of information that's very transferable between Unreal Engine and UEFN, so you might learn something cool and fun and funky and fresh over there. So check it out.
Heck yeah. Always. Yeah. And it's been running for quite some time. There's a lot of great information over there. If you're dabbling in UE or even just as a creator, developer in the space, lots of great information. One of the best, I feel like, crossovers we had was the rapid prototyping stream with Sam Bass, which actually has the most views of any of the live streams that we've had. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely check it out. He frequents the Inside Unreal stream as well as one of their evangelists. So yeah. Definitely check out that stream. But enough of that. We have so much to go through. I'm going to kind of breeze through our typical news and community segments here with Tina. And then we're going to get to the meat of it with our special guests because they have a whole lot to show off. And it's going to be a great end of year live stream for us over here at Creating Fortnite. So with that, we're going to kick it off with Epic's picks coming out next week. So the next launch of Epic's picks, it's not for Fort Who. That's just open. But I do want to give a shout out to Spanky Sully for winning an award at the Game Awards for his Fortnite creation. If you haven't checked out Fort Who yet, definitely do. And congratulations to all who were nominated. Y'all, much love to you. Y'all crushed it. It is such an honor just to be there. For those who missed it, of course, we had the Game Awards island where you could vote, and it was super, super cool. So congrats to those islands. Congrats to Fort Who. awesome, Spanky Sully, for thinking outside the box and creating something real fun to play. I'm excited to play this with friends over my break. But for our Epics picks, we have Freeze Battle by Lemurian 1224. It's a freeze tag. A spin on a freeze tag game. So you'll see that next week. I love the tags: battle, horror, party world, and role playing. So it's got a lot going on. And I'm excited to check that one on too when I have more time on break. So if you haven't yet, you will see that soon next week. And then we have Flag Wars by Cubestid or Cube STD. I'm not going to assume either. I'm just doing my best. So if I butcher the name, I'm so sorry. But it is a capture the flag spin as well. So check that out with your friends over break. We've also got, wow, what a thumbnail here by 404. Breakout Asylum. Endless waves of fiends, specifically, which I love that word. Great word. Great word team over there. Lots to do in this game. Got those waves of those fiends, so definitely check it out. And then Edit Wars by Pawn Zip, so you can edit down players. I'm really curious the spin on this. I haven't checked it out just yet. It's been a while since I've jumped in, but definitely taking it in another direction within creative, and we love to see that. And then Very Merry Prop Hunt. Wow, look at that Santa. I think that's Santa. I could be wrong. He's got, for a second I thought he had knee pads, which, I mean, would I be wrong? I noticed a lot of characters have knee pads. But anyway, it's an infection prop hunt. We love a good prop hunt. You know I do. Check that out. And then finally, but not least, we have Rocket Ninja Samurai Rush by Neighbor. Congrats, Neighbor. It's good to see a little Rocket Ninja back in the spotlight. We love that team. And shout out to, from community manager to Scarlett. She's a wonderful community manager. She's always out there posting about the creations all of you have made and how much she loves them. And so my heart goes out to her. She's awesome. So yeah. So with that, that is our Epics picks coming out next week. And then we also talked about the Game Awards winner. And then we also want to cover the Mega Jam winners, which we can just go back to the screen with me and Tina. So I believe, let me double check. It was, I actually forgot the name, Tina. Forgive my brain. It's the one with the cool swapping. Who was
Time
it?
Heist.
Time Heist. Yes. This one was a blast to play. Time Heist. Mega Jam. Let me make sure I have the deets up here. I was scrambling to get everything together today. As you know, we had a live stream yesterday. But congrats to the team that made Time Heist. I believe it was Click Creative. I was just pulled from my brain. They crushed it. Everyone I know who played that game was like, wow, did you check out Time Heist? It was awesome.
It was
here we go. I actually have a screen to share. Dan, if you want to swap back over. But you were part of this, Dan. Wonderful Dan. The Van Man was announcing this as well, which was super cool. And there's Tina and her dark glam, love it, chatting all about Time Heist. So if you haven't checked it out yet, there is a video that is on their channel where they announce all of the Mega Jam winners. So congrats to Click Creative, congrats to everyone who applied. Y'all crushed it. I've played through a lot of them with the team. Tina here did too, and it was really cool to see y'all go outside your comfort zone and make something super unique. What about you, Tina? How was it? How was it on your side over there?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I mean, this was the first Epic Mega Jam where we were able to kind of open up and also allow in UEFN submissions. So it was fun being able to play both, right? Having the single experiences and the UEFN experiences, which, like you said, everyone killed it. I had so much fun going through and playing all of the submissions. There were so many of them that were incredibly unique as well, which is... I mean, it's not surprising because creators are creative. I will leave now. I'm so sorry. But it was wonderful. There were so many great experiences. I wish everyone could have won because there were so many that were just amazing.
That's the hardest part about participating in Mega Jam. You play through so many, and I mean, there's definitely levels of winning, but yeah, it's can there be more? Can we give? I think next year, I would definitely love to do a live stream just about that, or maybe we could do another one of these where we kind of combine our forces together, right, and announce them. That'd be a lot of fun. So,
can we do that?
Lots of collaboration.
Do we have the power for that?
Do it. Actually, who knows? It's probably something way above my head. No, but we would love to. We would love to. I can't promise anything, but we're gonna do our best.
It would be amazing. I would love that. So. No.
All right. No, never. Okay, and now I'm gonna dive into the news real quick. I'm gonna give a signal to the wonderful Future Trash team. We're gonna get things ready, get cameras ready, wink wink. And now's a good time because I'm gonna power through these news messages just to make sure that we have time. So for those that did not see, we have an awesome tutorial right now on the FN Create YouTube. You might be there right now. Shout out to those who are. It's creating a triad infiltration game in UEFN. There are several parts to it. It's made by one of our awesome partners and our team to walk you through that whole process. So every step of the way, it's teaching you where the documentation is for certain things and how to build it out. So if you haven't watched this yet, definitely check it out. So we've got a lot of people in different areas. We've got, our wonderful template teams that build out templates that you've seen here on live stream. And we also have teams that are building out videos to help break down that as well. So shout out to them. If there's anything you'd like to see in terms of tutorials, I know we've heard a lot about requests for verse. Keep those requests coming. That helps us on this end figure out what kind of information you want. So and I'm gonna just kind of catch up on chat here real quick. Love the ninja mascot. Yeah, it was cool. I've heard that everywhere Neighbor goes around, especially in Japan, but also around the world when they go to the events like GDC and stuff, they've heard people love their mascot. So that's super cool to see. Mascots are awesome. And I know Future Trash is going to talk all about that with their little faux creatures. So they can also speak to that as well. So we'll hear more about that. We also have updates for the thumbnail image guidelines on Discover. You can find all of this and more on the documentation area of EDC. EDC has everything. Not only are we keeping all documentation here, we also have a bunch of tutorials here as well as you poke around if you haven't seen it. And of course the forums where you can go to get insights from the devs and get help with issues that you're seeing or questions that you have, feedback, everything. Definitely check this out if you haven't. But so any updates for thumbnail image guidelines is now updated on our documentation website. Check that out. Along with that, we also had our Ask Epic Village and Camera Control that Flack ran. Thank you so much, Flack, for that. We've got some team members answering all your questions here about the newly released update with Village and Camera Control. So if you have questions, feel free and pop them in here. I know we're always keeping track of, what questions you have and what's going on there. So feel free. Someone's yelling outside. So if y'all hear that, I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on in my neighborhood today. Things be wildin'. And then we have a blog for, it's like a fight happening. We have, of course, our new blog for v28.00. So check that out. That's everything from new devices, from the Village template. We've got Fortnite camera devices on here, control. We have the mini map. We have oodles of stuff that came out with this update. I hope y'all are enjoying it. If you haven't been able to dive in yet, that's okay too. I don't know if my internet just didn't like this page or what, but just forgive me for that. I'm on the struggle bus today. You can see. But yeah, super cool stuff. We're already seeing the creations that y'all are making with the new control devices. So cool to see. Keep them coming. We love that. I can't wait to get back from holiday break and to see all the amazing things y'all are making, and also catch up on playing creations because it's been a hot minute for me. And then, of course, we have our blog all about the Village in general. Exciting things to come. I think we're working on getting the Village team here for January to talk all about what they created. I know, Tina, right? They're so excited. So it's going to be a real fun one. So look forward to that. But Village is essentially a sample project that they've created rather than a template so far. It's a project where you can go in and play it and get the experience for what you can do with all the tools. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's so awesome. I know a lot happened. We had quite the bang earlier this month. And as a result,
what are
some
you
things got kind of swallowed up. Well, we have more to say about that in a hot second too. But yeah, Village is so cool. Saw some people talk about it, but it really deserves more eyes. So check this out if you haven't. You can do so many new things now. It's super awesome. That's just notifications. I don't know what happened. Something got lost in the translation, but you know what? This is virtual live stream again. And we roll with those punches. I do. Thank you for being here for emotional support, everyone. We can switch back over to me and Tina. There was one other thing I really wanted to talk about, and that was I know we wanted to talk briefly about the Moontopia spotlight. I bet that's what got lost. Moontopia. Let me see if I think it just here we go. I'll pull it up. I think something just clicked away or something and got lost. Here we are. For Moontopia, it was a creation, and it is a creation in UEFN that was made by a film studio, right? Tina, you know all about them. Tina's got the inside scoop because she's over on the UE side where we work with films and gaming.
I've got the exclusives. Yeah, Hazimation. It's a film studio. They make a lot of films and short films. They've been working in Unreal Engine for a long time. So it was really, really cool to see them finally step over into the realm of UEFN and make an experience over there. This is actually their first time doing a video game experience. Before, everything's always been strictly film. So this is a big step for them, and I'm really excited for that team.
Yes, yeah. If you haven't checked it out yet, I somehow have not. I mean, I haven't been playing much, so I really got to check it out. But I saw the trailer, and it's just jaw-dropping. You love when someone can drop a really cinematic trailer from a creation in UEFN. It shows what is truly possible. So check it out if you haven't. Jump in, let us know how it is. It's super cool to see people from different industries kind of coming in now, right? And bringing with them inspiration that they've gathered from their walks of life, which is also part of why we have Future Trash here, because they've got a lot of experience outside in different areas, which is super cool. And finally, I don't have a screen for this, Dan, but finally, I would like to touch on our end of year live stream that Tina and I hosted. So, Tina, what a time we had.
Yeah. What a time. What a jolly old time.
What a jolly time. If you don't know yet, well, you live under a rock. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't know yet, it's because we weren't able to post about it just for ratings reasons. But if you are interested, check out the Inside Unreal last stream that we had that we mentioned earlier. It was a festive holiday celebration with all of Epic, where we come together and talk about everything that's happened over the past year. Actually, it was even bigger than that, Tina, right? It was a celebration of Unreal Engine's 25 years.
Yes, yeah, it was Unreal Engine's 25th anniversary. That's right. It's a quarter of a century.
Tina made it happen. Yeah, and Tina and the team put together this awesome, just kind of walk through history. So definitely check it out if you have not. It's so cool to see how far we've come as an industry from the start of Unreal Editor all the way to where we are now with UEFN. And it kind of is eye-opening, truly, just to appreciate, what kind of ability we have currently. So that's really cool. But that all aside, as neat as it was and jolly as it was and silly as it was and informative as it was, it also came with an awesome blurb by Andrew Grant, who has all the scoop on everything that's going to come. But he covered some top line things we wanted to address for just, the soon to be future, not the whole year. And I wanted to make sure and let y'all know here in case you missed that. So some of the things that were mentioned by Andrew were Rocket Racing, Lego Fortnite, and Fortnite Festival will get UEFN integration next year. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to find out soon. Y'all are going to find out. And I am so excited to see what you all do with that. Also, there's going to be easier custom AI and animation in the works. And we're going to improve that process. Seen so much of you requesting more AI, more custom options, things like that. So fingers crossed. We're going to see more of that next year. Then a new verse machine that will be 10 times more performant, which is wild. And also, I also thank you, Immature. I saw put a list together very similar to this. I appreciate you. I don't think this is where the list came from, but it sounds just like it. And then a new persistence API, where we go about where we're going to improve persistence, which is going to be exciting. Seen a lot of feedback about that. And then new scene graph API for Verse as well. Again, this is just kind of what we know now. That's high level. There's much more to come next year, and we're so excited to see what you make with it. But I wanted to make sure that you were all informed on this side as well, since that was over on Inside Unreal. So yeah, but definitely check out the whole stream if you want to hear more context. It's towards the end of that stream where Andrew Grant comes on and talks all about that. So yeah, check it out. And with that, Tina, is there anything else I'm missing? I think that was it.
I think that was everything, yeah. The only thing I'd want to throw out specifically for that stream is we did have Short on, who is the head of the Epic developer community, and he's the one who went through every single iteration of the engine all the way up to what it is today, which was really cool. So shout out to Short for doing all that stuff as well. But with that, take it away, Shane.
All right. I am now going to denounce my duty and pass it on to someone even more important, and that is our guest, Future Trash. Future Trash, are you ready for us? Are you all ready? I hear the echoes of, yes, there they are.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome, everyone. Hello.
How's it going?
Hello.
So good.
Oh, we're live.
So
Here
good.
we go.
Yeah. What's up, guys?
What's happening? Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And forgive me, is this the entire team?
This is most of the team. Yeah. No,
Okay,
there's a couple more folks not on stream. That can only fit so many tiles on screen.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have most of you. I just for a second there, I was like, I don't think I've met everyone, so I wasn't sure. Well, welcome. For this, this is the most guests I think we've ever had. So I will take a moment, and I would love to pass around the room and get some introductions for the wonderful audience here on who you all are, if they don't happen to know. So I guess I'll kick it off to you, Kev, since you're the first person I met. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kevin. I'm the CEO of Future Trash, and my background is in animation production. Focused on developing original IP for kids and family entertainment.
Awesome.
I'll go next. What's up? I'm Seb. I'm a game director here at Future Trash. My background is actually in Unreal development, C++ coding. Built a good amount of indie games, mobile games, and now more recently doing UEFN stuff.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. I am Nate Reese. I am the experience director over here. My background originally was actually in animation, visual effects for music videos and broadcast commercials, but then changed to game development around mid-2010s, and haven't really looked back.
And I'm Scott. I've got a background in, I do all creative 3D, 2D stuff, map layout. But my background's kind of all over the place. I've worked with Nate for almost 15 years now on a lot of music videos and commercial work, and video games for the last 10 plus years, with mobile being kind of the first thing we went into, and then just an array of VR, AR, just trying out lots of different stuff and engines and programs.
Oh, so much experience in this room. That's super awesome to hear and to see and to have you. I have a question right off the bat. I have a couple, actually. First is going to be, what brought you all together, and what made you transition into the world of UEFN to be here with us today?
Yeah, we all had past work experiences collaborating on various projects on the mobile gaming side. Working on some stuff anchored around some other IP, and around June of 2022, we kind of came together after Scott and Nate had concepted Fode, the IP, these adorable explosive characters and some cool tech he built in Unreal that I'm excited for Nate to share, and we wanted to build a competitive party game, and so we set out on that track, and we actually built like a pre-alpha playtest that's pretty cool, and then it was around GDC time when the big announcement for Creative 2.0 came out, and we kind of took a step back and evaluated the ecosystem, the tools, and thought it'd be this kind of blue ocean opportunity for us to take our IP and bring it into that ecosystem. But yeah, Nate, Scott, I don't know if you want to chime in, Seb.
You know, this really all started. Our UEFN journey kind of started as a game jam, I'd say, back in May when Scott looked over his computer. We saw the announcement, we saw UEFN. We're like, can it really be that power? Can it really do what Unreal can do? You know, we're used to dealing with the Ferrari of game engines, really. And lo and behold, 48 hours later, we walked out with a full vertical slice, almost something we could have actually launched. It still hasn't seen the light of day yet, but essentially as a horde mode version of our FOD characters. We were able to get all the mechanics designed, import all of our assets over, really, really painlessly. It was so exciting. So that Monday morning we all met. We said, guys, you got to check this out. We did a whole live demo for the studio, and yeah, here we are now. It's December. Yeah, so 6.5, 7 months later, we got 5 maps under our belt.
Yeah, wow. And so Scott, it sounds like the characters were your brainchild. Were you the first one to kind of build those out? I heard Kev mention you.
Yeah, to a degree. Nate and I collaborated a lot early. They actually didn't have faces for a long time. They were just explosive things with legs, and we just kind of kept slowly developing their personality over time. We toyed around with the idea of them having arms, which we vetoed for a number of reasons, but also just aesthetically, it kind of just made them look a little dumber.
If you guys have ever had to animate a hand, though, animating hands are no fun.
I don't want to say the technical word is hand animation.
It's not because we're lazy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're really efficient, so we plan around it.
Yes, that's what it is. Exactly.
But yeah, and we took a lot of time making sure, and I know Nate's going to share a little bit of this too, from the visual standpoint. But we took a lot of time putting a lot of care into kind of their personalities and making a lot of them feel unique and giving them a lot of different traits and pieces and parts to kind of suit different lifestyle and different vibes. And they're really funny. They we don't put a ton of weight into their VO. And we really try to just focus on the fact that they run around, run into walls, they're a little dumb, and they blow up, and then they come back to life, and then they do it again and again and again. So we didn't want to detract from their ultimate goal, which is to destroy and blow up.
Yeah. And Sebastian, so you have a lot of experience in UE. I'm sure several of you here do as well. But what was it like jumping into UEFN? What has your experience been like in terms of adjusting to the new tool set?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, actually. I mean, just having even just the windows and the way the engine's designed and being able to navigate around in a comfortable space made everything really easy. I have to thank Nate, though, for helping me actually acclimate to verse, because that was the more intimidating bit of all this. Syntactically, it's very different from what I'm used to in C++, and Nate dived in there and figured it all out so that I could just ask him annoying questions after the fact, and kind of get stuff done that way. Man, even getting a for loop going on day one, I was like, I was like a fish out of water in that sense. But in engine, do I wish I could drag around blueprints? Yes. And get the full blueprint editor in there? Yes, but it's still incredible. And I found that transition actually pretty fun, to be honest. And the ease of which you can stand up a game is just incredible. So it's a win-win for me.
Oh, we love to hear that. And Nate, how have you felt about verse?
Oh yeah, honestly, every day I use it, I love it more. It's so powerful. What you can really do, it's just deceptive, really, though, because getting into it, you think oh well, there's kind of ceiling here, but really you keep pushing on it, and it's oh wow, you can actually do that. Okay, let me find another way. You do have to be a little clever sometimes, but obviously with all the exciting announcements that you guys have just made recently and the stuff coming in 2024, it's getting better and better. There's now is literally the time to get in here and know this, because it's just there's the sky is already you can do anything you want. The sky's the limit, really. So but definitely coming from Unreal is a little bit of it took a little maybe I'd probably say over the course of the summer to really get fully comfortable transitioning from C++ to it. But now I'm going back to blueprints, actually, even though opening up some of the original blueprints for this, I was oh yeah, that's how I used to do things. Okay, this is a little I've really embraced verse by and large. And of course, obviously, the trade-offs of UEFN are just insane. Coming from a traditional game dev background, to do multi-platform development, you need different teams for each platform, and this is just one team who can focus on one creative vision. It's just awesome.
Yeah. No, we're so glad. We're so glad you're here. We're so glad to hear your insight. Thank you all for sharing all that. For everyone in chat, if you have questions for Future Trash, creators of Fode, Box Fight, we've got Boom Tycoon, and several more now. Let us know in chat, and we will try and pull them up as we go. Yeah, and I hope more word gets out. Yeah, this is Future Trash Fode. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Come join the stream because it's going to be super exciting, and it will also live on. So if you have to go out for any reason, it'll be here. And with that, I guess we've done our introductions. I know we wanted to talk. We have so much to cover, and I want to make sure y'all are comfortable with whatever flow we go with and direction. But I know we wanted to talk about creative development process. But let me know, what area we'd like to cover first, and you can take it away.
Yeah, I think we can just dive right into it. Talk about like case by case, island by island, and just kind of set the stage by saying like, our whole goals are to create like a kind of our own metaverse within the Fortnite metaverse, right? A connective tissue between all of our maps, using our characters, integrating storytelling, kind of world building, and that's why like there's some overlap, and we also create awesome marketing assets in collaboration with Moisty Media, an amazing talent in the space. Want to give a shout out to Moisty, and those things are important to us to create that. That sense of storytelling to allow us to build our Fode universe, our Fodeverse, if you will. But yeah, I don't know if we want to start anywhere in particular.
Scott, do you want to start with
Nate's gonna... Yep. Yeah. Go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah, share my screen. You can talk about it.
Cool.
We do have one question that popped up in chat. And I think part of this too is, correct me if I'm wrong, you had your death run. That was the first one that I was aware of that did quite well as well. But someone was asking, did you promote your box fight map, or did Discover do most of the work for finding the right players?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we did box fight was in collaboration with T5G, an awesome Fortnite creator, and so we kind of springboarded that launch strategy, and then for the most part, it was a collaboration effect between us and T5G, and then there's Discover was very kind to us, and we think we found the players that enjoyed the experience, and it kind of just evolved from there.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, and as someone who, if you haven't checked out box fight yet, I know there's a lot of box fights. It's a very popular genre within Fortnite. I mean, the gameplay itself within Fortnite lends itself to a great experience in a box fight. But definitely check theirs out if you haven't, because it does the things that a high quality box fight all does well. It makes you feel part of it, like you're incorporated into the experience. I know they've got, even for when you win, you're on a platform. It's so well edited. The cinematics are great. And then it just keeps it fresh all the time. So it's a really, really good experience, and highly recommend that. Well, with that, I'll let Scott go ahead and talk more.
Yeah, and on that too, we'll definitely, Seb will talk about box fight, why we chose it, and some of the the differences and what we wanted to add to that kind of genre too. But we'll get there. But yeah, I'll talk about Fode a little bit just in general. So Fode aesthetically, we really tried to get inspiration from kind of this like 90s, early 2000s. I think we call it like rebellious teen hangout. There's a lot of movies that have that specific thing in them, and it's just like I don't know, this kind of feeling that Nate and I always gravitated towards in this kind of films, and different like comic books and stuff like that. And there's a ton of awesome stuff in that time period that we were referencing. So we wanted to really figure out a good look to kind of get some tagging, graffiti, in here. But we also, having a mobile background a little bit, we wanted to keep it bright. We wanted to make sure everything that we built was movable to different platforms and different qualities, which has really lended itself well to creating and launching through UEFN. But Fode is we have made everything in 3D, and then brought it into Unreal 5. And Nate put together pretty early on a really cool generator inside of it. And we spent a lot of time on this generator, more than we've been able to necessarily show off in Fortnite so far. But we will eventually, and we're slowly growing that. But we create all the different pieces and parts in here. Nate's going to show a really cool tool of how we are able to adjust the eyes and the mouths. There's a lot of randomization in there when it comes to colors. And all of our materials and stuff are set up in a very specific way to kind of lend themselves to that. And it's been great because we've been able to utilize a lot of this stuff still between Unreal 5 and UEFN. What Nate's showing here is we're able to apply stickers and tags and the eyes differently, and we're able to go through and adjust those, add effects. And we, from the get-go, when Nate was talking about how we kind of did a little bit of like a game jam weekend, the first thing we did was make sure that we could get code inside of Fortnite. We wanted to get our characters and our assets in there. We wanted to see what translated. And, with very minimal changes, almost everything, including our materials, which was the big thing, we're able to go seamlessly in there. Our animation rigs, which somebody who's not on the video today, Andrew Mark, is responsible for, those are all, we're able to go from from Unreal 5 to UEFN, which was great because all the FODs are just using a single rig. So being able to still generate them inside of Unreal 5 and get all the character variations that we want and then bring them into Fortnite's been cool. We have an unlimited amount of characters, but Nate and I's focus and why we spent so much time on this generator is we really just wanted to make every FOD kind of feel like they could be the main character of the game. A core idea that we're going to be building into a game in the near future, hopefully early 2024, is being able to build your own FOD. Of course, that's kind of end game here, is to bring that possibility in there with a ton of options. And we've tested the waters with Tycoon and a couple of our other games to make sure that we understand how memory works and how these assets need to be optimized in a very specific way so that we can pull this off. Nate, I don't know if you want to add to that at all here as you're kind of showing this stuff off.
Yeah, no, I think you covered most of it. I mean, one of the big goals, like Scott was saying, though, was to create like each character was the main character. So it really was our guiding principle when sort of setting up our generator. And then we use the generator to really inform all the design decisions that we bring over to to UEFN. But we're doing tons of things inside our generator, specifically, like Scott mentioned, we wanted to use one universal rig. So actually the only real skin mesh is just two little sticks for the legs. Everything else is kind of parented to it, but it works, it works pretty seamlessly across all these different variety of body shapes, everything else. Big shout out to, I'm trying to remember the guy's name from the Unreal team, but the gentleman who's working, or the team that's working on a lot of the geometry tools inside of traditional Unreal. They're fantastic. We've used a ton of geometry scripting to actually bring some of the stuff to life, like real time. You can see the stickers are moving across the mesh in real time. I mean, stuff that was literally not possible, at least for us, a year ago. So it's been really exciting to see just how far normal Unreal's come and how that can even influence what we're doing inside of UEFN. We still very much use the tools in tandem, depending on sort of the task or the challenge that we're trying to tackle. One of the cool things we're actually seeing right here, though, is actually one thing I'm particularly proud of is the way we generate our faces is actually it's really cool. So we define everything's controlled by sort of the eye placement. And then you can see here we've got sort of these dummy nulls for different attachment points. So like for the mouth or for horns or for an antenna, things like that. But it lets us then dynamically project these elements across a variety of surfaces depending on the rule set for that model type. So when we're designing a face, we only ever have to design it one time, and then it works across all our, I think we're up to 7 or 8 body types now. But it works automatically across all those different body types. So it's been a lot of fun little, technical challenges to make this work and make it work efficiently while maintaining sort of this super high bar that Scott's set for these characters, which has been super fun.
Yeah, this is so cool to see.
Awesome.
And kind of like Nate said, we had a couple principles up front that were just incredibly important to us. So, when it comes to kind of how we are making our maps and why we're making our maps, we really try to focus on making sure like the photo aesthetic is there. It's not always, about the characters either. We really want to build a unique looking environment, which is why we spent a lot of time building custom assets for each of our maps and making sure that they feel like us consistently. And it's just been a big part of our planning process. And I think one thing that everyone on our team has in common is we're all perfectionists in our own way, a little obsessive in that as well. Even what Nate's showing right now is just us not being happy with how some are procedurally generated. So we spent a bunch of time making sure that we could fix anything that looked weird, just to make it better and better and better. But that concept and kind of work attitude, that went straight into all of our Fortnite, and still goes into all of our Fortnite project.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is super awesome. I have a question for forgive me, I was answering someone in chat. Was it difficult to, since they are generated within UE, was it difficult to put together ones to have in your experiences in UEFN? Because you have so much to choose from, so many different assets, so many different faces. Was it hard to pick the ones that you were going to have standing in those experiences?
That's a great question. And I was going to say specifically one of the cool things that we actually got to do with UEFN is actually, since we had so much time freed up sort of on some of these technical aspects, we're not doing like the net code, or we're not doing some of these more intricate things. We got time to spend more thinking about the actual the core of the characters, not just the aesthetics, but the actual, like, what are these characters. And we've actually been able to we've specifically created like this engineer type character that we spent a lot of time kind of putting the pieces back and forth and workshopping it within Unreal 5, but at the end of the day it is fully assembled and put together within within UEFN itself. But yeah, we developed a number of characters and even kind of branched out the FOD concept to be more than just explosives. Even there's a new character called Drilly that we had in our death run, actually. Scott, I don't know if you want to elaborate.
Exciting.
No, we're trying lots of things right now. So, we've tried different styles of FODs as well. We brought in, realistic metal looking textured FODs. When with Tycoon, we decided to just brighten up the game. We had done Death Run, which was incredibly dark. Overall, the first half of that game is underground in a factory with lava, and aesthetically it was cool, but it was just very kind of grimy a little bit. And then the next half of that game is incredibly like lab coat white. So with Boom, we wanted to do something much more colorful, and that's where we switched up the FODs entirely. We didn't bring in any of the realistic textures. We made a material that let us kind of shift those colors on the fly. And, Boom Tycoon is just full of a lot more colorful ones. So it also, because their attitude is really reflected independently from those materials and which ones you pick from, I'm really happy with like all the FODs. So it's very easy. Usually it's just Nate throwing a new material in and me saying, nice, yeah, that's cool. And then that's the one that makes it. So.
A very scientific process, but it has been fun because we've really given ourselves though upfront a lot of different tools, like being able to no material really has a color that it comes in with by default. We tint everything with color masks for the most part inside of UEFN, which gives us a ton of versatility and also a lot of really low low overhead, because you don't have a million materials and a million textures that you're bringing in just because you wanted a purple FOD and a green FOD. That's been really fun. So we support up to in our main material. Let's see if I can bring up a amalgamation. Actually, kind of jump into this. Our main material supports, I believe. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's something that we're actually utilizing in a map that we're currently working on. It gives us the ability to do, animated materials inside of UEFN as well, and also allowing players to start changing materials, which is really important to us. So instead of bringing in hundreds of unique textures, we can bring in one with all those color areas masked out, and we're able to have switches inside the game that allow players to kind of infinitely switch what color an asset is, and that's something that we're just recently starting to utilize.
Gotcha.
This is just a quick example. So we've actually created like kind of like our Uber coloring material function. Just another example of like what's so awesome is like having this inside of essentially like UEFN has just been amazing. It's not something I would have necessarily expected to be supported out of the gate, but being able to have all of our functions came over perfectly. That was a huge win for us, because at the end of the day it's not not super complicated material, but what we're doing, is very, it lets us push things very far. Because we're always testing on Switch. We're always testing on, the devices people are playing on. It's really important for us that this stuff works, and having, definitely would recommend anyone that's in this space look to a lot of the guiding principles of mobile development, because those have helped us just tremendously. With mobile, you're always you're relying on the battery. You've got to make this thing as efficient as possible. Know your tech behind why textures need to be a certain size, and do you really need that overhead? What can you pack together? It's been fun to try to mix it all together.
That's an awesome note, Nate. Thank you for sharing that. And you might be wanting to cover this later. Forgive me if I'm taking us a little ahead, but I'm a little unsure if we were going to. When it came to developing the FODs, the fully operational annihilation devices, did you do you find it hard to, as creatives, all of you here, find it hard to build a character or an IP from scratch and know that it's going to resonate with people? Or I know for you all, you were going with the kind of like rebellious 90s for the vibe, and then you just kind of guided with that, or was it just, hey, this is something I really believe in, it's colorful, it's fun, let's go with it, and then it naturally just resonated with people?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you kind of just gotta commit to your gut instinct. And to Scott's point, it's as much as it is about the characters, it's really about crafting a visual language, a brand identity. In Box Fight, for example, there are no FOD characters, but we still have that essence of FOD. It's still you're still in that world. Crafting evergreen IP, something that can live on for years, decades, etc. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint, and so it's a matter of reinforcing that world, that story, that visual language over time. And right now we're having just a blast identifying different genres, different game types that we can apply our IP to.
Awesome. And I know we're going to get into a little bit more of the branding later, but yeah, go ahead. I know we had more to share here. Don't let me pull away from the conversation.
Let's see. Scott, do you want to talk more about any of the characters, or do you want to jump into Lane Wars?
No, we can jump into Lane Wars. Yeah.
Oh, right, Kev, cool. I think your mic was a little low, but I heard you talking.
Oh, no.
But barely. There you are.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Do I need to refresh?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're good.
No, you were good.
So,
all right.
Lane Wars was our first game that we launched in UEFN, and it was basically the child of Nate and I's game jam experiment, which originally was, like Nate was saying, a bit of a horde mode game. It was really fun, actually. Oh. And it's kind of mindlessly shooting FODs as they come down 4 different lanes. And then, the Epic Summoner event came out, and some of the requirements for that were multiplayer, team battle. So we ended up kind of shifting it. We're all, most of us are really like casually playing MOBAs, which is a very difficult thing to play casually.
Yeah.
But we wanted to translate the lightest MOBA we could possibly think into Fortnite, and we had a lot of fun kind of concepting it, and it will show a bit of our pipeline and our process of why we made this, how we made this, some of the game design behind it, and what we wanted to tackle a game that had so many difficult things in it, just kind of right off the bat, but with a really simple idea, so that we could kind of make sure, even moving beyond this, that we understood what we could and could not do, or should not do inside of Fortnite. And it's a really good game to learn off of for us. It was very compact. It's a small map. It was utilizing almost entirely assets that we had already created. So we really were able to, learn that pipeline of importing and optimizing. And, every map's gotten better from this point on, as we started to kind of learn what the players, how they played games. And we all like Fortnite. We've all been playing Fortnite for a very long time, but building in Fortnite for the creative audience is just incredibly different from playing Fortnite, casually like we did. So this was kind of the perfect game to learn a lot of stuff at once, but where the amount of time it actually took us to develop the game was incredibly small, which has been a focus of ours for every map, just to make sure that we're not overthinking anything or spending too much time in an area where we're not 100% confident in how players play a game or what kind of new experiences. And a big thing here too was we're bringing fodes into Fortnite. So how do we do it? What do they look like? Do people like them? Do people get them? How do we get the name across? So we really wanted to focus on just not plastering necessarily the name all over the place. It was just having a ton of characters all over the place instead, which very clearly in this video you can see there's no shortage of fodes.
I don't know how it happened, but I missed the Lane Wars train. I didn't see this, and it is so cool. And it's funny because I know you baked a little bit of that into Boom Tycoon, because there's the little like offshoot where you can kind of shoot them as they come at you. And that was one of my favorite parts of Boom Tycoon. And I must have been a little homage to this. So I have to check this out. This looks so fun.
Yeah, that was actually one of the being able to bring that over to Boom Tycoon, which we'll talk about too more in depth. But it was really cool being able to modularize everything. And one of the other great things about UEFN is it's really easy to kind of shift one idea from one project to another pretty seamlessly. It didn't take a long time to translate what we had done here to the firing range in Boom Tycoon. It was maybe a day of work really to get it kind of fully customizable. All right. Should I jump into a little bit of how we're doing stuff inside of Lane Wars? Does that sound like fun?
Yeah, Nate, I think that plus the Miro. I know you've posted on.
Yeah.
Miro a couple times.
Yeah,
I think we're just going to probably show this, once. We have a few of these, but Miro is like our pre-planning process is very important. We don't actually spend a ridiculous amount of time, despite. You're gonna see the perfectionist part. Everything's got to look cool. Like even when I'm reviewing something, I'm a very
beautiful.
visual human. So when setting this stuff up, color coded, and the colors got to be good. They're custom. But once you're in that flow, I want to stress this is a per person type thing. A lot of people can get, and we've got other Miro boards that are just text. It's just blocks of text and really random notes.
So,
but starting off, because we had so many questions. It was important to kind of have the visual be there I needed to understand it myself, like what we were doing. Go ahead, Nate.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, some of the best games have the ugliest game design documents out there, but we try to do it all. Who knows? But it does help us aesthetically, like especially, one of the things I love about Miro, as cheesy as it is, these little sticky notes are actually really invaluable from, a collaboration standpoint, because each person sort of gets their own color, and then you can really dive in and just leave comments directly on it. Where sometimes another, traditional like Word docs, they can get lost or things like that. This is just a very fun way to sort of go back and forth, like building off comments in sort of different aspects, without having to, completely overwrite the original document too. And it just looks kind of neat at the end of the day too.
I mean,
where do you start? Where do you start when you're building this doc? Which segment on this board did you just begin with, or was it just kind of chaos where ideas are flowing and you're adding them to different sections eventually?
A lot of this spawned from conversation, so it didn't come out of necessarily nowhere. It was very much there was some communication that kickstarted a lot of this. The way I work especially is when I spend extra time putting stuff like this together, because it actually helps me think through what I'm putting in as well, like with the ideation. So finding the extra time, like that time frame between going on, getting an icon, making my colors, finding the layout of how I want to put, launch pads and the information under it. The whole time I'm putting that together is the time where I'm thinking about everything. So it's a very seamless process for me with zero downtime ever. And that's kind of why these things, when you get in like a good rhythm, finding a rhythm is incredibly important when you work on anything, and finding what your rhythm specifically is very, very important. It's probably the biggest time saver. This looked a little bit different when it started. but very, very quickly. And that's why I put things in borders and I try to categorize them because it's helping my brain categorize them. So really, it's never like a total mess. Like even the little X flares, those came in super early. I just wanted to house things and know what I was doing, and the arrows, and I like to see my old work so I can reference it. So, and then Miro is also, everyone can collaborate on it at the same time. So you'll see, it's always funny. We'll be in there and you'll see 4 names pop up on there, and they're just flying around. They're clicking on the thing that you're writing. You're like, don't read what I'm writing. I'm still working on this.
It's the best. The stepping on toes. But it is cool. We also do a lot of our sort of retrospectives in here as well. It's a great collaboration platform. But like Scott's saying, just getting something that the team can be in sync with is really the important part. Using a tool that everyone's going to actually use. I've seen so many times where you try to institute a new tool, and it's cool, but then either people don't understand how to use it, or it's just kind of cumbersome to use. It takes an extra few steps. Miro's okay. It's not fantastic. I feel like it hasn't actually been really that well updated and supported in the last few years, but it works exactly for our process. So it's been nice. We've pretty much done this for every map that we've released, which has been incredibly helpful as our sort of guiding light. Because sometimes it's like you're working at 1 a.m. You're like, why are we doing this? What was the reason? And then you'll see a post and you're like, oh yeah, there's a really good reason why we're doing that. I'm not an idiot. I'm glad I spent the time doing this. So yeah, it's truly invaluable.
Awesome. Yeah, this is so great to see, and hopefully so inspiring for those of us who enjoy this. I mean, I'm a visual person. This is super exciting. If I ever put anything together with another team again, I'm going to do it like this. This is awesome. Thank you.
Right? This is
Absolutely.
gorgeous. And I love just seeing really thought out design documents anyway, because I think that's something that's really easy, especially for people that might be new and are just getting into this. They don't know the value of a good document, a good design document. So thank you for showing this.
Well, that's a really good point though too, because I think sometimes, especially with islands are really unique and they're really fun for us to approach because in the past, geez, for like the core game that we were working on, you've got a 20, 30, 50 page design document at some point, and it's really cumbersome. It's a lot of work to put together, but something like this we can put together and it can live and breathe and grow over the course of a couple weeks that the project really exists. It's kind of the perfect balance between in depth but also surface level at the same time. So definitely whiteboarding feels like, at least for us, the way to go. It's been great.
Awesome.
All right, I can dive into a little bit. If there's a desire for a little bit of some of how we're doing some of the technical things in Lane Wars, or we can jump onto other design things. Not sure what the best way to take everything is.
Yeah, no worries. I'm seeing definitely some love for Lane Wars in chat. We've got people talking about how it's so innovative and how it was before its time, and like it was before what people really realized what could happen in UEFN. So mad respect for this. I also want to point out your level of detail, team. Your level of detail, chef's kiss. I mean, the photo at the very top where he's just casually blinking and his eyes are ginormous, just peeking out. That is fantastic. I mean, everything about your experiences really pulls me in as a player, and just so much respect. I'm so happy to see your islands, resonating with people as well. So,
thank you so much. We really, try to put ourselves in every possible detail. We're big believers in, it can be a little trite phrase, but we're big believers in the, how you do anything is how you do everything. So you can see from the detail we put into game design document down to, even Scott, I've seen obsessively placing little rocks on the ground at some point. I'm like, dude, but they're important.
Rocks. They're important. I mean, even the art, or I don't know if you call it graffiti in the game, I can't recall, but in Boom Tycoon, I see the little art on the wall right there. Similar art all the way through when you've got in Boom Tycoon. Loved it. I mean, this is how you do it.
All
this
custom threads. Yep, exactly. We're really trying to create this cohesive world that you can tell when you're playing a Fode game, you're in the Fode world. So very, very, very important to us.
Cool. Well,
right,
if there's any mechanics, Nate, that you do think would be super valuable for those to see, I mean, y'all have experience in so many places that if there's anything you feel like you haven't seen a lot, across the board in Fortnite Creative and UEFN, and you want to kind of show some of those, you're more than welcome. But I mean, the time is yours, so
Yeah.
however you all feel.
I'll do a little bit of a speed run. If anyone's interested in pulling on any threads, that's fine. If not, then we can jump on to the next thing. So when we first actually approached this, it was really serendipitous because the ability to spawn custom props had just come in a patch. I think literally the week before we picked up UEFN, so we were trying to look at ways that we could spawn our own characters. And lo and behold, we discovered, literally read the new patch. And I think it was like 24 or 23, whatever. And it was like, oh my gosh, we can actually is our gateway into getting fodes into this universe. So each fode itself, is an individual prop that we spawn. We're doing some clever things. One of the things I'm really proud of is, it's been really fun to come up with solutions for things that seem like they're potentially not possible within UEFN. And one of the issues we came up with is, we've had this, kind of a relatively mid-sized area that we wanted giant foes to come out of. And the way we're doing our sort of spawning area, it was looking really, it didn't quite mesh with having a fode come out of here. And I believe you couldn't even use the scale transform at that point for the spawn prop moving along our path. So a lot of times they're just clipping through. But one of the things we actually did was come up with an idea, and this has proved to be invaluable. This scale cube, it's I'm proud of this because it's probably the dumbest solution that's really effective that we've come up with. But essentially we have a skin mesh scale cube that scales up. It doesn't loop, it just plays a single playing. That's actually how we scale our characters up coming out, and it controls everything. It controls the hitbox, everything else. When it worked the first time, I was kind of just like, you got to be kidding. This is actually working. This is so cool. But yeah, so about 2 or 3 of our characters use this scale cube, and this cube is a theme that's come up multiple times in other projects, which I may or may not touch on overall, but this has been one of the biggest lifesavers. This is actually a cube. It's rigged inside of, it's a control rig. Big shout out to the control rig team. So it was very elaborate control rig. I think it's single bone, but we've done a lot with it, more than just this, which I'm excited to talk about. One of the other cool things we're actually doing in this is, one of the things we ran into was, when you're assigned a team has a specific color, you're red or you're blue. Well, we figured out a way to, in traditional gaming, you're usually always the blue team and you're going against the red team, blue good, red bad. And we know that's not always the case sometimes within the Fortnite ecosystem, especially now. But when we originally approached this map, we thought that was kind of the case. But so we actually went through this process of creating cinematic sequencers that control a material parameter collection, where it actually changes the color depending on what team you're on. So if you're on, team 2, you would see team 1 as red. So anytime someone spawns to the game, they get assigned one of these cinematic sequences, and then it kind of shifts the color. And that works also for our fode characters too. So essentially the way we're doing it is each character themselves, I can show the, let me go ahead and show the material really quick because it's kind of cool. So in our sort of master material, we've got, again, sort of this function I was talking about, but essentially we've got these different team colors that are switched by this this MPC. And if anyone hasn't used material parameter controls out there, they're really, really powerful. Essentially, it's a variable you can use across all different materials that you have in your scene. So you can do big global things. We're using a ton of like box fight to get some global effects on the arena and things like that. But it's really powerful because you can drive NPCs with the actual sequencer, and this is where the magic really happens. I'm really anxious for some of the scene graph stuff where you can actually really directly control it with burst. But for now, this is a fantastic solution. So basically, we just have a really quick 30 frame little looping thing that'll trigger the right color if depending on what relative team you're on. So, but yeah, so those are just some kind of cool things we're doing in here. All the one other, this is kind of diving into verse a little. I don't want to get too technical. Sorry, that's kind of I always say that and then I go way too far. But one of the way we're actually tracking kills, because essentially you get rewarded based off of if you kill the fode before it gets to the shrine. The whole point of the shrine, the fodes are really the only thing that can damage the shrine. If you get there, if you kill it before, the idea is that your team gets a little bit of gold. But one thing that we've discovered with the spawn props is they don't really work with, you traditionally, if you're just doing this in normal creative, you'd use, prop manipulator, you'd use, the built-in device to check when it's destroyed. But you can't really do that, at least not in mass, with spawn props. And we've literally got hundreds of these foes on screen at a time, which is also a testament to the engine that it can even push that much. But tracking that with these, prop manipulator devices would get pretty complex. So all we're actually doing is we're setting up essentially a monitoring system where we monitor the foe with a very simple loop and a block, where we basically just check, is that prop valid? And if it is, okay, cool. And if it's no longer valid before it gets to the target, we're essentially saying that was a kill, and then we destroy it. To destroy it, we teleport. We've actually got a whole range of explosive devices, which we were so happy to see. We were very proud of. Early on, you couldn't teleport explosive devices, so we came up with a system to actually parent them to a null object, which then you could teleport. So we were very happy to have that early on, but they've actually just updated the API recently, I think back in October, that lets you teleport them now, which is a huge help. But we sort of have a little pooling system on, so each type of foe has about 3 different explosives because they have to reset on a 0.1 second timer. But yeah, lots of little things like that, but definitely the is valid, checking the is valid has been a lifesaver for us in terms of being able to know if a prop is real or not. So
that's so cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for showing that, Nate. So helpful. We're getting a lot of love in chat for
awesome
how smart that was. So I appreciate you walking the community through
awesome.
that.
No, for sure. It's exciting stuff for us. Scott, you want to talk about Death Run? Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to see if there were any questions in chat. Let's see. We did get we got 2 questions on this one in particular. Did you import blueprints from UE from your original game, or recode assets into UEFN, or was it all just populated into UEFN?
So we imported a lot of raw elements, so a lot of our base meshes, but we used our generator to sort of inform the designs of the foes we wanted to create. So we actually did sort of a one-to-one, we'd look at them inside of the original Unreal project and then rebuild them by hand. There were certain things though that we're actually able to create again, really cool with the geometry scripting team. We were able to create an export pipeline for some of our more complex generators, which was really cool. We're really proud of that one too. So we're kind of creating for those of you that don't know, geometry scripting lets you do a lot of things that are similar to like things you can do in Houdini, or very things that are very kind of procedural in nature, and then bake them out to existing meshes too within an Unreal project, and then you can just export those meshes straight to straight to UEFN. You can literally just migrate it and it just comes in.
Thank you for calling that out. And then oh, go ahead, Tina.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, the stuff that Ryan Schmidt and the geometry
Ryan
making is incredible.
That's the name. I always see Ryan going on Twitter. I love it. He's
so
a
much
big
love
motivation.
for him. He's so good.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, what's his Twitter handle for those who are interested in learning more about what they're working on? Do you know, Tina?
That's a great question. I can find it for you. Lickety split.
Thank you. Yeah, because that could be helpful. And then a question for Future Trash: How do you guys decide the thumbnail? Do you ever update it? And have you found any that work particularly? Like any do you have any tips for what would work particularly well in resonating with players when they're going through Discover looking for things?
I wish we had a secret sauce or secret recipe there. I think we're just in the same boat as everybody else, just testing different things, kind of seeing, observing other successful maps and, taking inspiration from. But yeah, we just kind of take a crack at it and see what sticks. I don't know.
Cool. Yeah. It helps having the good branding too. That's like your own voice, like you're all we're talking about. I know sometimes it can be tricky, but if it's something that resonates with the same, I guess I would say with your branding, it's very colorful. So is Fortnite. It's very like catching. It's very specific. It's like succinct, right? For box fight specifically, it's all about the font and kind of just drawing the eye in that way and having your brand in there. But yeah, I mean, it's true with any UGC in this world. It's all about testing out to see what lands, what doesn't. I mean, there is no magic secret sauce from what I've seen. But yeah, if anyone ever does figure it out, let us know. Cool.
I will say I'm pretty excited about the new guidelines though for the thumbnails and how those are being weighted. I think that's going to increase just the general vibe across the board, which is really exciting. And the new UI, it's right at home with what you would expect from like nice streaming software. So seeing all the new grid is just awesome. I really appreciate seeing stuff in there. Especially the highlight that goes over to Syslick. It's really 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 cool.
Heck yeah. And Tina, did you happen to find that handle?
I did in fact. You can find Ryan Schmidt online at RMS8. I want to say 0, but it has a line through it, which makes me feel like it's something different. It's posted in chat though, so go check him out if you are interested. He has a lot of really cool tips and tricks that he puts up.
Thanks, Tina. Cool. Well, with that, I guess we can move on to the next project y'all wanted to show off.
Scott, you've got that one pulled up, is that right? Or am I pulling that one up?
I do. Is this did we do Death Run next?
Yeah, let's talk about Death Run.
Okay.
Death Run. I remember hearing about the workarounds y'all had for Death Run in person when we met. So I'm excited to see.
It was fun. It was cool.
Yeah, this all came together.
Death Run was it was, the goal was we did a lot of weird stuff for Lane Wars. Let's pick a genre that's a little pre-existing, and it'll be a lighter weight idea than Lane Wars. It was absolutely, we were wrong. It was way harder. Death Run is we've probably spent maybe the most time on this map. But what we wanted to focus on was a simpler genre so that we could add way more character and storytelling. Again, trying to get that Fode brand in, but what we ended up with was a very difficult game to make, which was starting to become almost a like an entirely separate kind of platformer inside of Fortnite. And we went very back and forth on how we updated this game, and this was probably this is our biggest learning curve of how we got to watch players play our game and what was difficult for players to understand. Trying to figure out also who's playing our game. Are these are they kids? Are they adults? Who plays Death Run? We're kind of new to this area, so it was a lot of us wanting to build a map and kind of figure out how that player base engages. So Death Run is I spent what we did is I spent, and I think we'll probably release some behind the scenes stuff here at some point, but I spent the first week and I think this was about a 4-week project, maybe like 3.5. I spent the first week just developing this one area right here. This was all empty. This was just a walkway, and it was from here to, let's say, here. This was all a week. So in that week, all I wanted to focus on is getting a single image of what this game would look like when it's done. And I wanted to test out spacing and jumping, and we limited the amount of resources we were building just for this one spot. So we upfronted a lot of time into the lava shader, and we upfronted a lot of time in making verse traps, but not a bunch of them, just a couple of them, like actually 2. And we experimented with cinematic sequencers for different kind of animations, like these gears spinning and the lava flow, and that's a material animation that our coworker Andrew made. So a lot of time got put into this one corner, and then from there I spent another half week getting from here to here. And that's when I realized that this game was going to take us it's going to be a lot of hours to actually build a playable thing. When I play tested this thing that I spent all this time on, and I made it through in 15 seconds, it was like, oh my god, how long do players need to be in this game for? It's a minute, right? But no, our target was 30 minutes plus. So there was a really good moment of redefining how we put this stuff together, how many custom assets we went. That did not deter us from making an incredibly long, for what we could do, hardcore Death Run map with about a lot of unique things. But it was a good wake-up call when we saw all these different Death Runs out there, and we quickly realized, like, wow, they spent a lot of time on these maps. Like, there's 300 plus levels, and sure, some of them are close together, but 300 levels is incredibly that's a lot to put together. Even if you're repeating stuff, you still have to do it. So we tried to at this point just be as methodical as possible with how many assets we were going to bring in here. And we had in the original concept there were 3 or 4 unique locations, each that had their own kind of boss.
Actually, I've got the
played this.
If you can pull up my screen really quick, I've got the PDF handy to show off our. This is the core concept of this. Again, this is how basic sometimes the Miro can be, but this is the genesis right here, Scott. Do you remember making this?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's so
and
simple,
we were gonna have
so
this
perfect.
crazy.
Yeah.
The middle one was insane. It was like this. You jumped on a metro train. It was gonna like whole thing. You were gonna be moving throughout this. And as we made the very level 1, and the goal of this game was, we wanted from a thematic standpoint in Lane Wars, we did an update where a lot of the ground planes are cracking, and there's like lava underneath, and there's like these planes. And then in the cinematic trailer here, the player falls from Lane Wars and enters into the bottom of the Fode world, which again, this is all part of like our Fode lore here. Which we had kind of figured out beforehand, and you end up in the pits of the Fode factory, and you kind of go through this lava core of the earth area, and you work your way up to, originally it was going to be, can you get onto this metro station, which is also part of our lore, and then from there you take a train and get up to the ground level, and you be in like the city area, which we also have a bunch of cool assets for. But as we started developing this first part, we were like, that's a lot of stuff. Also, memory's getting tight, so we did 2 areas. And we picked the second area to thematically be very simple, and that's why we went with this lab aesthetic, because we knew we could pull it off, we knew it could look cool, but it was a lot easier to do than adding like a gigantic subway metro train that's flying through a bunch of unique things and then a whole city. So we reduced the scope almost immediately. Which again, great to have, cool big visions, but realistically, that would have taken us, twice as long, and we would have been well over memory. So this was awesome to front load a lot of work into just one small section, because within a week, we were able to kind of readjust our entire plan without really losing anything that we thought was valuable. So, and the valuable things here are crazy worlds, crazy environments, and every boss, Nate put a lot of time into having cinematic cameras and intros and sound effects, and we referenced a lot of early 2000s, again 90s video games for it. So what we didn't do as much was look at the other games that were out there for the genre. We just kind of took a stab at it. So as we've updated this game, we started to change up the game flow based on how we've seen other players actually play these games and our game.
We're getting a few questions about your cinematics. One, how long did it take? Another, let's see. Oh, there was another one I saw, but I think I lost it. But in general, like how long did it take for cinematics? Any tips you have for cinematics? Because that's super high quality.
Yeah, and I think the other one was what you made it with as well.
Thank you.
So this cinematic, so across the board, we pretty much collaborated with Moisty Media to help bring all these different worlds to life, and a big portion of that is they're just so darn good. They really can bring a lot of I'm just blown away with how far they can push things. So they've been a huge, awesome partner for us. This one specifically, was probably our most collaborative because us coming from a lot of the visual effects background, we were able to really kind of pass the project back and forth. So we did like the ground crumbling when the giant big cardiac Fode gets cut in half. We did that, but then all the cinematography, all the other captures, that's all Seth and his team, which are just absolutely fantastic. They use this is all created in a combination of UEFN and traditional Unreal. I believe the one shot of the ground crumbling was traditional Unreal, and that was just due to having to use chaos physics and things like that. But then I believe the rest was all captured directly within UEFN timelines. But definitely they're a labor of love. They're it's a lot of effort, but it's always worth it. And the tools you have access to, specifically with the sequencer, cinematic cameras, are just they're incredible.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to add to that a little bit too, they were we all these games kind of come down to the wire of our own internal timelines. So they were amazing at doing a great job with a very short amount of time. But the biggest thing there was trying to get them as much finished looking areas as possible so that they could jump in the scene and get the shots they needed. But they were incredibly patient and forgiving.
Right. They kept being like, guys, is it ready? Is literally the first zone ready? We're like, one more day, please.
It will be.
But, your point, Scott, though, earlier, it's really important, though, on these projects. Like, you can work on something forever. And, in a space like this, it's really important to ship, to get yourself out there and just put yourself out there. Not everything's going to be a huge success. We've experienced our ups and downs, throughout this whole process. But it's good to set milestones and stick to them. It's very important. And, Kevin, I'll give you the big credit for that. If Scott and I were just our own devices, Scott, myself, and Seb, we'd probably be shipping Death Run right now. Sorry, Death Run Part 1 of 3.
Yeah.
But so definitely big props to having having a leader that can really help bring all these these things together and keep us on it, because it really is. I don't think the map suffered for having a shorter time. Like having this, we knew 2 weeks in, our idea is too big. We need to scale it back. But how do we still make it amazing? And evaluating all those things constantly is important.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that happens to game devs of all sizes, all budgets, all areas. I mean, I've definitely been part of teams.
Not just UEFN. The nice thing with UEFN with such, kind of truncated timelines, though, is you don't get to that point where like, oh my God, we just spent 9 months on something that's barely making a difference in playtime or anything else. It's like, oh no, it's even if you do make a misstep, it's usually not, it doesn't have the budget catastrophes that you can see in some sort of AAA or even triple I type things.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. And then was there anything we wanted to cover else in terms of any innovations that were made within this one particularly, or did you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think if you went back to my screen real quickly too, I know, it might be, since I just got it up, Nate has done a couple posts on our traps, but I think those are probably interesting to talk through if you want to, Nate.
Oh yeah, for sure. So this was actually the first real dive into verse outside of Lane Wars, because Lane Wars was really the only things that I used verse for were really the spawning and trajectory of the foes. But everything else was done pretty much purely with devices, where we knew coming into this we needed a lot of stuff, with the goal of having this 30-minute, playtime session and just these really long corridors of different, very interesting traps that you can encounter. So after doing some, soul searching and some internal tests, we really came up with, we have to use verse for almost all of our traps that we want to do, anything movement based wise in. We've also made surprisingly clever use, I would say, of God. What are they, Scott? Are they the jump pads? For our bouncers? We're literally using other devices parented to the devices that. And it actually became surprisingly memory efficient because they all ended up batching together pretty well. But we actually, for like the quad spinners and things, we have essentially invisible bounce pads. We figured out that you can actually add another. I think we added invisible boxes that also. Whatever's a collider under one of the bounce pads is also yeah. Here we go.
Wow.
This is the setup here, with the different nulls used to house everything, and they also have to be housed very specifically, or they don't work. Or you can't move them.
Is that to help us? Is that to help us when we land, that we're more stable on these things, or in that way, or hopefully I'm asking as a player.
Yeah, right.
You can see we made the bounce areas actually incredibly small. So there's the forgiveness right there.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, dang.
Graciously. This one too. Yeah.
Oh man, I love it. I have a newfound respect for death runs. I've never seen one broken down like this in my time here, and as someone who's absolutely terrible at them, but grew up on platformers, so I know they're very difficult these days. Mad respect for how long this took and the detail.
Well,
thank you.
Speaking of difficult, though, one of the things we realized from a game design standpoint, and this is something, we're always reevaluating, our experiences, because one of the cool things with UEFN that we found is, so many maps, so many great maps out there that might not do great on launch have gotten this amazing second life, either through direct support from Epic, or really just, developers continuing to work on their projects and really pushing, what it is, what the core is. We've seen maps have second, third, fourth lives where they just, all of a sudden, they're not doing great, and then they spike to a crazy CCU, and then we're constantly asking ourselves, why, there's some magic to the algorithm, but really it's I think it's the cool stuff really rises to the top eventually, and that's why we're really focused on making this stuff feel as awesome, as cohesive. But one of the things that we found when developing Death Run, was always going back and forth on the difficulty. We wanted to create a long experience. We wanted to create something challenging. Only Up was very popular at the time, and so we knew that it seemed like the player base had a high threshold for failure, for these attempting these things. But what we quickly realized was perhaps our experience was even too hard. Maybe we were pushing things too far, because the crowd that plays a Death Run might not actually be the exact crowd that's playing the Only Up map or something like that. So we did a lot of internal play test. Our Scott and I both have younger kids, so we had them play it a lot. At some point there were tears when Scott made things way too difficult, but look at my daughter crying under her desk. That's fine. That's Scott's fault.
Oh my god.
But eventually, it was cool, because once we did get in sort of, I believe, some sort of trending tab on there, we were actually able to, we were playing the game live with a lot of people, and we were able to see where players were falling off pretty quickly. And also through accolades, we could see that too. But we were able to literally push out an update that, we eased up a couple of areas. Scott, spent, a couple hours making certain areas easier. And we saw the CCUs over double. I think they quintupled because of these changes that we had made. And it was really cool to be able to see something that we had pushed. Literally, we had the idea. 6-7 hours later, it was live, and we saw a net benefit of doing this because we had the data from the previous days. It was really something. It was really just like, wow. I mean, coming from other, mobile platforms, wherever you're waiting days for something to be approved or anything else, it was like, this is so cool. We can actually make intelligent live ops choices and push them.
That's such a huge advantage of having
that.
Just the audience there already. So, I mean, you can't do that anywhere else.
Right.
Oh yeah, I have a question for you all, and I saw this question earlier as well. So you created, of course, you have your team Future Trash, you have your brand for fully operational annihilation devices, FODE. Did you start right off the bat with quite a big following on the FODE channel and the Future Trash channel before you kicked off Late Wars and the Death Run, or how was that evolution? When did you kind of gain that traction on social?
Yeah, we spent a good amount of time building our community when we were building our UE5 competitive party game, which we actually launched like a pre-op. It's a single-player, single-map experience, and we were building in public, sharing different stages of the process, and that's kind of like how we developed our kind of core community of fans, and then it kind of grew from there once we pivoted into UEFN and building in Fortnite.
Cool. Okay. And then you've just seen that kind of consistent growth. I mean, you work so hard to engage your community. I see that on social. And for your graphics, is that something y'all create as a team, or did you work with Moisty on anything like that, or any other agencies?
Yeah, we have an amazing person on our team, Ryan Red. You can chat with him in our Discord.
Nice.
He's and he creates content. He is wonderful about engaging with the community, making it, collecting valuable feedback. That's like a whole other thing that we should probably talk about. It's just like the value in being able to have like a direct line of dialogue and communication with the community of players, and being able to be receptive and implement changes really quickly. But yeah, Ryan on our team is our community manager and does a great job.
That's awesome. Congrats to Ryan, because I see that as a fellow community manager.
It's like the hardest job on the team. I'll be honest. It's a lot to deal with, a lot to remember. Then he's had to deal with grumpy devs who were up all night. Yeah, he's fantastic. Just love him. I actually one other.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. If you can cut to my screen real quick, I've got some fun more cinematic device things to talk about a little bit, in just terms of some of the things with Death Run that we did. can be of interest. But when we set out to create Death Run, one of our goals was to create. We said we wanted to create the most cinematic Death Run out there. So cinematic obviously meant scale, scope, but also actually using sort of cutscenes and cinematics to give the player an idea of where they're at, and give that scope just a little bit more feeling, at the end of the day. So at certain stops along the way, you're prompted to go through these different little cutscenes, and we're able to create these just so easily across, with all the different assets we already had in. It's just as simple as dropping a few of them into the timeline. It's awesome that you can time the audio out with them, though, which is a huge bonus. In the past, doing things like this, I didn't have those tools, and it's been really, really helpful from like the immersive standpoint. So we've created a number of different cinematics though throughout the space. For instance, when there's a little mini puzzle here to free. Oh yeah, this is the character Drilly. This is our first non-explosive, still destructive,
there he is.
but non-explosive device. And the whole point of this room is you have to sort of do a parkour, turn on these 3 different buttons, and then essentially he'll wake up. And when he wakes up, we actually have a specific. Let's see if this is it. Believe this is it. Oh yeah. So he actually has his own whole wake up sequence where giant, horns come out of the water. He does a really funny scream, and then the user is encouraged to sort of take this grind rail that emerges out and about and get through before the area resets. We really approach this kind of like a theme park. Was really our idea of we want to make these things challenging, but enough that people can get through to still experience sort of these 4 or 5 cinematics we have throughout the project.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. I love how every single angle you have gone to has been absolutely beautiful as well. Like, I feel like you could go at any point in this level and it would just be stunning.
It's
really so happy.
Scott's hard work.
Sometimes that I don't think anybody ever sees, but it's just it's done with a lot of intent and thoughtfulness.
It is. It is.
Manic
I see it.
Anything else on Death Run you want to talk about, Scott, or anyone on the team?
I think in the interest of time, if we're planning on breezing through to
yeah.
Boom Tycoon and to get to Box Fight, I think we should probably move on to Boom Tycoon.
Sounds good. And if we do run over a little bit, I can happily stay on for a little bit more. Others might have something they have to get to, but happy to be here for y'all if you want to go through anything.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Sebastian's still not back, guys. They're worried. They're worried about Seb. Seb is there. Seb. Can you see him?
Put me back on. Put me back on. You can remove how I look. I promise. You can remove the photo image now.
How is it working?
It's I think it's on. I'll message Dan.
Well, who knows?
It was planned. It was planned the whole time.
There we go.
I've been here, I swear.
Unveiling.
Yeah.
True phone.
While we're giving advice out, I'll give a piece of advice. Don't use a mirrorless camera as a webcam. Just get a regular webcam. It's not worth it.
All right.
This is not the first time his webcam
This is
has had
a
problems.
constant theme. Yeah.
Darn.
All right, Scott, do you want to talk about sort of our initial approach to Tycoons? Maybe how we, you did the deepest dive, I would say, in terms of studying, what it was out there, everything else.
Yeah, if you want to share your screen too, I know you're bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'll kind of walk through it while you show, but I'll move through it a little quicker. Nate and I, a lot of people on the team have a huge passion for the Tycoon genre, even outside of Fortnite. They're just so fun. I get super hooked on clickers and idle farmers and stuff like that. I just like the flow. I also kind of like we were talking about earlier, I can think a lot while doing stuff like that, so it's just kind of beneficial. So Tycoon, the important things here were I wanted to play this game really bad. And I wanted to play it a lot and over again. I wanted to have fun playing it. So this is even from the game design standpoint, it was a little bit of like this selfish desire to just have a fun time personally playing it. So when it came down to like fodes, initially what we really wanted to focus on was like being able to build your own fodes and do all this stuff. But, we really quickly kind of put together that was going to be a little less feasible entirely for now. We wanted to understand, Verse a little bit more, and also the player base. We did want to make something more familiar this time. We set out with Death Run to make something more familiar than Lane Wars, and with this one, we wanted to make something, even more familiar again. So we did a lot more like playing inside of the Fortnite ecosystem and seeing what we liked the most. And a lot of the smaller, less played games had so many like just awesome features, cool ideas, and it was really inspiring. And while we were looking at some of those like heavier played games and what we liked about them, what we thought other players liked about them, we really wanted to find what fit Fode and what fit ultimately a game that we wanted to build for ourselves and for Fode. So this is another combination of just a lot of stuff that we learned from watching players play games. So building this one out, we knew that we wanted to build as high as we possibly could. I think the original goal was 10 floors.
Oh, let's look at it. Let's look at the board. Okay, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 floors.
Ideas. Yeah, and each one had its own Fode type. It was just big, and we had all these other like side ideas to do. Again, we know we brought this up, but the memory cap, and a lot of people talk about it, is a really good thing, honestly. It prevents you from going too far with your ideation, and it helps you build something within an actual feasible time frame. You literally there's a hard cap of how much you can do. We did not need 10 floors. We did not need 7 floors. Actually, I think we did do 7 floors. Or 5, I don't know. We did not need... Okay, 6.5. Well, we're doing an update.
Yeah.
We're doing an update now that adds another one. It's okay. So the core of just having that memory cap alone has helped us just reduce our ideas down and to what is really important. So what was important for us for this game was we didn't want any idle time at all. We didn't want and there's nothing against these mechanics at all. I actually enjoy a lot of them, but there's no area that you can just like stand and get money, additional money. We wanted to kind of have something that was, I think, what we called like our active passive. You'd be able to actively do something where you would just keep accruing, more and more money. And that's where the firing range was kind of the core idea here. What would you do during downtime? You can go and blow up Fodes, and Fodes give you money, and there's rare Fodes that spawn, and those give you even more money. So we really latched on to that, and all of our early play tests, the number one comment was we like the firing range. So we really wanted to make sure that we built everything, like the whole back. We cut out all the walls in the back so that you could always have a vantage point from up above to keep engaging in the firing range. We added a teleporter in there in case you wanted to go back and forth. But ultimately, the idea here was, and actually a concern we had was, this is really tall. Are people gonna not have a fun time running all the way up and down here? But playing and watching other people play it never really became an issue. So we really just kind of focused on having a ton of unique stuff to unlock, cool animated stuff, bright colors, get some Fodes in there. Nate spent a ton of time, like a couple super late nights, just doing this conveyor belt. This conveyor belt thing came in like, I don't know, 3 days before, 2 days before we launched it. Maybe the day before, I don't know. But it went from never having anything there, those things were animated, there's just nothing there, to like fully finished after a couple nights of Nate doing it. And that added like a ton. And he, actually, you should talk about that. That's really cool. That's the ideation and why, we built this and stuff.
This was probably to date the most challenging project we've worked on for a variety of reasons. Like Scott, you're mentioning the memory. There were a lot of things we wanted to do with it, but also make it, like you're saying, Scott, like no downtime, very snappy. There's, there's always something new, someplace new to go, discover something new to buy. It was really important to the game design. So making sure everything felt great was important. So, traditionally tycoons, at least a lot of them, are made by actually are made by actually spawning the elements that you purchase, and that gives you quite a few advantages, but there's some disadvantages when it comes to actually having the freedom to make kind of complex design decisions on the fly, and coupling that with utilizing certain Fortnite assets or other things that we wanted to use. You can't just throw those into a blueprint with all your other things and spawn that. It would be there's just no actual way. So the way we're actually doing our tycoon is incredibly simple, but also incredibly dumb. But I'm proud of it. Is we're actually at the start of the map. Every element that you can possibly have access to is teleported 20,000 units underneath the surface of the Earth, and that is there's a lot of ugly things under this Earth, but that takes the cake for sure. So many of our maps, I swear, in every game that I've worked on, there's always sort of this zone underneath out of sight of the player where you can
the no-go zone.
Pre-cache item, the no-go zone. We don't talk exactly. Simple way to pre-cache things and whatever else you have to do to make it work. But so yes, at the start of the map, everything is teleported underground, and then we're using sort of a verse, just your standard triggers on all of our different devices to essentially say, okay, this thing can now be activated. So we teleport the green circle up, and then when you step on the trigger, then the next thing, it's all this giant chain of I think Conan would be proud of us. We're using a bunch of the async functions, so we're doing a ton of awaits and a ton of signaling to actually tell the different things when the next thing is kind of needs to go off. We really saw the Unreal Fest just in time to make this really work. So that was a huge inspiration of how we actually ended up pulling this off. So big shout out to Conan and all of the work he's done to make Verse kind of as powerful as it is. Going back to the sort of these droppers, these things are sort of a standard paradigm that we saw across a number of different tycoons, and they're a strong, they're a very strong metaphor for sort of the factory and for kind of building your arsenal over time. But we wanted to take a step further, knowing that we could do certain things with our characters. We said, okay, what if you were actually, and again, the idea was a little bit more elaborate, but what if you're actually building these FOD characters? So first thing we wanted to do was give the dropper itself some personality, and we did that with basically rigging this guy up with essentially a basic control rig. If you haven't messed around with control rigs, I highly recommend it. They're incredibly awesome. They let you do all kinds of things in we're actually able to drive this through Verse, which is kind of crazy because usually with Verse, you're driving an entire prop. But this, we're driving just, a singular set of bones with a spring on top of all this to make it, feel really smooth and fluid. Let me see if I can actually, let me bring up the control rig here. Sec. The control rig is nothing too crazy. Essentially, we've got literally, this is the most basic for anyone that knows about rigging. It is a single IK chain, essentially, with an extra handle. And then what we've done is added these spring interpolations are your best friend if you're going to drive something with Verse. Since Verse only updates every, I think it takes every 30 frames or takes 30 times a second. You can get jittery motion, but you can smooth that all out by using one of these spring interpolates. Really easy to plug and play and then just transmit to the type of data. One thing to look out for, though, is you can't use the spring interpolate on rotation just yet for whatever reason. That isn't supported. I'm sure there's a very good reason for it. But yeah, so just a heads up. But we were able to get everything we needed up just using the sort of the linear vector based of that. Everything else is pretty much, you could understand how to set this up with just your very basic my first control rig type tutorial, in the sense that it's just a normal IK chain. And of course, the big trick is actually giving your IK chain a member that can be controlled outside. It's looking for, instead of doing output, it's looking for input. It's looking for something from the player, and that's what's all hooked up essentially inside of your outliner. We believe we just have your control rig, and then this is linked directly to a Verse prop, which is this arrow. By the way, highly recommend using these little arrow debug tools. They're really nice. You can change the size, the color, everything else, but it goes a long way of being able to identify things really quickly within your scene without having to create another object that's hidden or anything else. So I think I may have just crashed this because there's about, oh no, okay, cool, good. Whew. There's hundreds of these arrows in the scene, so I just realized what I did when I changed it. Yeah, so this is basically linked up at the end of the day, and that is what's doing this. So essentially what we have is these three are all orchestrated then by a singular this master. I have created custom 3D icons for our Verse devices just for these, because it was really important for us to be able to select them and duplicate them out for other floors or things like that. But essentially, this is where all the orchestration happens between these different droppers, and it basically checks every time a new one is built that, okay, I'm awaiting this one to be built. Okay, now this one's built, I know what to spawn essentially and what. So in terms of what it's spawning, it's just spawning, your run-of-the-mill props, and then doing a let me actually bring up the verse real quick. Actually, it's spawning basically just, it's just looking for a normal creative prop, and then the movement is all being done through essentially the animation controller. And if you haven't messed with the animation controller and you've only been using move twos and verse, definitely check out the animation controller. You can do all kinds of more wild things. But specifically, you get access to your ease in, ease out functionality, which is really kind of imperative to making good looking animation, at least on a fundamental level. But so anyways, what these things spawn are just props. But I know I said I was going to get back to it, and let's get to it right now. So we actually have our little cube has made a return for these guys. So to actually scale these fodes up is, again, an animation we only wanted to do once. We didn't want to link it to the animation controller, because that's already setting it on its own independent path. So to actually get something that spins and rotates up like we just saw would be much more complex. I could retrigger it here. But yeah, so you can get an idea of what this guy looks like right when he spawns out of. So what we're essentially doing with this process then is basically just tracking these individual points. These little fodes you can see on here, these are just dummy. These are just for reference points of where the path down the conveyor is going to go. So once I spawn a fode here and it gets to here, all I'm doing is I'm saying dispose of this old prop and then spawn our new prop that actually has legs. So it's not this it's not this super complex, we're not like modifying the original blueprint. It's just another blueprint that spawns as we've disposed of the previous one, until you get to the final spawn, which is just our cool little box that they they ship out in. So yeah, that's kind of a quick breakdown of how we did the conveyor. Something that we're real stoked on and hope to get to use again in the future.
It's so awesome. And I think it was you, Scott, I think, right, who was talking about just wanting to play this and enjoying these tycoons and playing it a lot. For me personally, whenever I do log in, I do play through this if I just want a nice, relaxing, fun experience, working on my battle pass. It's nice. It's almost like calming to go through it over and over again, and satisfying. I feel like I'm achieving so much getting to that VIP. So yeah, it's really cool to see the magic. Even all the stuff 20,000 feet below.
Save data and some new things are coming. So
ooh,
very excited. Very excited. Yeah, our firing range is pretty much like I said, I think I mentioned earlier, this took about maybe a day to port over. There wasn't anything too crazy that we had to bring in. It was fundamentally pretty much the same. The only thing we had to take into account were some orientation issues. We were debating how many players this was going to be, so it needed to work, north, south, east, west, everything else. So we wanted to make sure that those were kind of taken care of before it was kind of like all hard coded. So there's a little extra math to do on the side, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to kind of translate. Anything else on Tycoon, Scott, that you wanted to touch on, or any Kev, Seb?
No, I think that was great. We loved making this experience and are excited to continue with an update and Boom Tycoon 2. And yeah, Scott hinted at with save data persistence, it's only going to get more engaging.
Heck yeah, awesome.
Very exciting.
Cool. Seb, I don't know if you want to talk about box fight. Let's
hop into box fight. Could I share my screen, please?
No.
I guess.
You think you can just turn your camera on and then start sharing your screen?
Bold me to assume. Okay, so let's just start with my strikingly less beautiful Miro that started this project. I'm not Scott. I can't make things look like that.
All Miros are equal here. It's okay.
Yeah. So the genesis of this project was the idea that we wanted to tackle the box fight genre and just give the fode spin to it, right? We wanted to apply a certain level of quality that we had established with the other maps, polish, and then, how can we make something different that players would want to play over another box fight, potentially? So the idea there started with these like four core tenets here. As cheesy as this is like my version of a daily affirmation right here. It's like, why would someone play this map over another box fight? And we started with this idea that we want to have a rapid round system. So that means skip the loading screen and have a custom round system that actually replaces the built-in round system in UEFN. We can get into more details about that in a second here. Fresh play space. So this means we wanted to establish that each round is not the same game as the previous. There are a lot of box fights that do like kind of dynamic elements like that, but each round having like actual procedurality in terms of how not only the arena is constructed, but the actual win condition and the round construction. We wanted that to be fresh every time to keep things exciting and new, and I'll get into that in detail. Lowest input delay possible. This is very important, I think, to the demographic of players that play these maps, and I think the community and the creators are well aware now that to create low input delay environments for box fighting, you need as few devices as possible. And so relying on a lot of verse for those types of things as opposed to devices whenever possible was a huge importance, like a huge element of this. We can get into that as well. And then sticky feedback loops. So that's like the faux difference in my opinion. I think the reason why Boom Tycoon was so fun and some of the maps we created is just that level of polish. Like when you step over something in Boom Tycoon, you see the smoke and the clouds and the foes spawning and all those kind of like feedback loops kind of make it more fun in my opinion. So we want to also establish that in this map. And so looking at it just from kind of a broader perspective, classical 7x7 box fight layout, but with this procedural nature to each round. So let me get into that here. If you look at this board here, this is the map. We have all our like game types laid out. The idea being that on any given round, any of these rounds can happen, and it defines, you know, the way that round should play out. With the core tenet still being that this is like a practice box fight map. And so a lot of this design and the challenges behind this was trying to come up with a way of establishing these fun kind of kooky mini game style rounds, but still keeping the practice element intact, because I think that's majorly important. I think players that play these box fight maps are warming up for BR, or they're practicing, they're trying new things, they're practicing piece control scenarios, they're just being hyper aggressive, whereas they might be, you know, they're just practicing quite literally. But why would they want to come practice on our map? And why would maybe players that aren't as hardcore want to play here as well? And that balancing act kind of came down to these fun rounds that still kept everything intact. So a lot of how this is built is combining something like low ceilings, where we literally have a prop mover attached to this entire top section, which literally moves it up and down. And so we can come down and now everyone's crunched into one story. But how do we, it's not just low ceilings, right? So we're combining that with an actual procedural loadout selector. You can come here, see where all our loadouts are. So we set out, you know, a couple loadouts here. These are like the core ones, just standard stuff. And we feed these into an array here. That are all the item granters, right? These are all loaded into arrays, and then at runtime, we are choosing between them. Really simple stuff, but it's a modular component that is in addition to the actual construction of the round. So we can get low ceilings, and everyone's going to have like a gold spas on this round, or we can get, you know, 2x damage, and everyone has just a shotgun, right? And so there's like 3 or 4 modular components to each round, and that kind of plays into the fresh play space idea that we think players like. Another part of this, you know, we play tested it. This map probably took the most play testing, because you quite literally need to get like 9 or 10 players in there and just see what's going wrong, right? There's a lot of edge cases in terms of like late joining. You know, if someone joins right when the round starts, does that mess up the round construction? There's a ton of stuff happening there. But we also just found that like maybe the less hardcore players on our team were loving the really fun goofy rounds like Dance Party and Trap Game, things that are like less practicey. And then like me as a core player, I come from an esports background. That's like my obsession and my passion. I actually played competitive Fortnite for a year, but I really enjoyed like the more standardized rounds where I just got to like straight up box fight. But what really happened, like the real kind of discovery happened when we launched the map, and we found out players, for example, hated slippery floor. And the reason being is because the whole floor becomes slippery, and the way we built that, I'm sure a lot of people know how to do that, but we used a grind power up here and assigned it to all the players. And I don't know if you guys have ever used this, but it literally makes it so you can't like go up ramps. So if I build a ramp, I literally cannot, unless I build momentum, I can't go up it. So players are like, wait, this isn't a build fight anymore. This is like tragic and not practicing. So players like really vehemently were opposed to it. We took it out day one, and maybe we'll reserve it for like a winter update, like an ice rink kind of thing. But it would only be with the contingency that it's a no build mode, right? Because we just found out pretty early on, and it didn't come out of playtesting, but it came out once the map was live, that is not the player's favorite mode. So that kind of process has been really fun, I think. I spent way too much time on the live build in like the first 2 weeks, just getting in there and like talking to players, half of whom did not believe that I was part of building this, but I was like, hey, any feedback? And players were usually like, why do you want me to give you feedback? Like, we're just playing here.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm just curious. I didn't want to be like too weird about it. But honestly, that feedback from players, whether it was like, hey, the low gravity mode happens too often, or the slippery floors mode is like, this is unplayable, maybe want to leave. That has actually led to a lot of the changes that we've made. And when I speak about changes, whether it's removing a mode entirely or just adjusting the weighting of it, that's actually a huge thing too. So if you look at the round manager here, this is like basically the logic center for how we choose which round is about to happen. And we came up with this kind of way of delegating the rounds into these arrays here and weighting them with like super common, common, uncommon, rare, super rare, right? So you can look here, low ceilings, high ceilings, these are in the common array, and then I can get really nitty gritty into the round manager itself, and we have weights here for each of those. So the most recent change we made was making like the standard box fight happen literally 70% of the time, and it's just because we found that the core players for these maps, like the way to retain the high CCU from our experience so far was to keep it pretty standard most of the time, because you still have those modular components in terms of like which loadout you get and certain other elements that still make it somewhat fresh. But we're able to weight. We're just using RNG here, but we're able to weight these things pretty granularly to the point where, for example, if you go down here, super rare happens 1% of the time, and then if I look at my super rare layout here, you can see that there are just 2 rounds in there. So low grab and explosives, and this is all based on like that kind of user feedback that we've gathered by people tweeting at us, which is super helpful and warranted. Thank you to anyone who's ever done that. And then just going into the matches and talking to people, and then also relying on other creators in the community that we are friends with, just getting feedback and really just dialing in this experience and the balancing act. And I think that's kind of like the superpower, quote unquote, of this map is balance, or at least we like to think. And obviously we get to add more rounds now. So let's say for another winter update, we want to make a snowball fight mode. I can choose exactly where that goes, how often it'll show up, and then it's just about designing around that, right? So whether the ceiling goes up or down, we're getting to the point now where we're gonna have the walls also move in and out, which will add another component to the dynamics there. And then, yeah, I don't know. Nate, Scott, obviously responsible for how clean and kind of beautiful everything looks. There is a noticeable lack of like FODs in this map, and the reason for that really is because in preference of the input delay, like as few devices as possible was really important to us, and we're kind of proud of keeping this thing at 8% project size. I think personally, from my anecdotal experience, that plays into like how it feels to build and edit. So we wanted to make that as snappy as physically possible by relying on Verse, not using any devices that are superfluous or unnecessary to that core experience, and then just making so that like ping is really the only kind of component that might affect your build speed or your edit speed or your ability to take someone's wall. So those elements are super important, and I think that's kind of why, sadly, there aren't like a ton of FODs dancing around here, because they would take up a ton of memory relative to the
Not yet.
stuff we're using.
Soon.
Not yet.
Would you mind
Right.
Would you mind going over to the item shop too? I think that was something
of
kind of fun we did. So yeah, as mentioned earlier, a collaborative effort with T5G, notable YouTube content creator making content about Fortnite, and so we made these unlockables based on how many kills you get. So using that as like a retention tool is where you want to grind it out and equip a kill animation or a trail or these custom pets one of which is the T5G logo. So yeah, so that was a really cool case study in like the impact and power of collaborating with a YouTube content creator, us as game content creators, and like kind of finding this really cool sweet spot for this collaborative map.
Cool.
Can I talk
We got
about
some questions in chat as well.
I got
Just as
one
a
more.
heads up, y'all. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nate. Then we'll.
I've got one really quick nerdy thing to talk about with this that I think is really cool that people might like too. If I can share my screen one more time, if you're done, Seb, I don't want to.
Yeah. Go ahead. Take it.
Cool. So as Seb mentioned, you know, it was really, really important. Oh, am I not screen sharing on Discord? One sec. So as Seb mentioned, you know, it was really important for us to, you know, keep the memory usage, the device usage, everything as low as humanly possible. So actually, I'm proud to say, you know, we've created these really elaborate RGB spreadsheets. We knew from the start that we wanted to, you know, every pixel was important to how we're creating these things. So this is a really good technique to pack a lot of data into, you know, a small volume of memory. So each channel, and you can even use your alpha channel for this as well, each channel is essentially a black and white channel, right, in an RGB image. So we're using each channel as its own sprite sheet to make sure that, you know, we're minimizing our draw calls as much as possible within our lobby. That lets us then combine a lot of these different, like even our UI icons or RGB type things, into sort of these more elaborate. This is our test zone again, outside the map. It just looks incredible. It's so scary. But this lets us do sort of our testing where we're driving a lot of these animations, which are done through, you know, sprite sheets or whatever else, all within literally, I think we're using 2 or 3 sprite sheets total for this entire project outside of textures. So something that we're all very, very excited about. This is a big effort from Andrew, Mark, and myself and Scott to kind of make sure we're being really, really, really smart. Again, just to make sure that overhead is as low as possible while keeping, you know, all the fun bells and whistles that we can't live without, you know, the stuff that represents FODE. So
That
that's
optimization,
it. I just wanted to cover that.
to quote chat.
That's it. That's what we go for.
Yes, yeah, and I know we mentioned feedback, so that was super cool. We got a question. Oh yeah, here we go. How did you make the reactive materials in the experience?
Awesome. I can show you. Are you talking about the ones on the floor that kind of pulse when players are killed?
Ryan, are we
That's-
talking about the materials that pulse? We'll see if Ryan gets back to us. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So we're actually doing that through essentially we're using a spherical mask. So on materials, you can actually define. So really quick, let me actually pull up the right material real quick. So one of the really cool built-in things, and there's tons of, if you look up spherical masking for just normal Unreal, you can probably find something on this. But essentially, we're defining where a sphere exists in the world, essentially, and then we're essentially animating out the radius of that sphere. Let me see if I can find the exact. There we go, sphere mask. There it is. This is essentially the trick. So you're essentially defining where the mask exists, the radius of it, and everything else. And then you can say this exists here in this world space, and then we're driving that through one of the material parameter collections I mentioned earlier, the MPCs. So this is how like I know, like in Airforia, for instance, I'm taking a guess here, but you know how they had those kind of really beautiful just pulses of wireframes that went across all their materials there. That's very common how these effects are pulled off. Essentially, you're starting from an origin point and then just using animating or some internal logic inside of the actual object itself to move that mask along. So this is the cool node right here to take a look at.
Cool, thank you. And then we had another question. How did you work out the quick rounds? I don't know if there's no specifics for that, but
so this is one of the fastest maps we made. I think we made it in about 2.5 weeks or so, and the quick rounds were about 2 weeks of that. So that was about, at least of my time. I'm half joking, but there were a lot of we had the initial system up and running really well early on. But then the moment we started playtesting, we realized, oh no, there's a lot of things that can break pretty easily depending on when this is like, a private map code and people are joining 15 minutes after it started, or they join at this 2-second window, which we hadn't seen before until it went live, and then scrambling to try to fix that window too. So there's no soft lock lobbies. So there were a lot of things to take into account, but mainly it was, trying to deal with, because obviously there's internal functions with the way that, that players spawn and everything else, orchestrating those with our own sort of custom, utilizing the built-in, but at custom times, the respawn functions of the 4 characters were invaluable for that.
Cool. Thank you. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to drop them in chat. Was there anything else we wanted to cover when it comes to the box fight?
I think that's about it. Yeah.
Sweet. We talked briefly about community building and things like that. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about or cover there? I know a big pain point in the community is gathering feedback, which I know, Seb, you touched on a little bit as well. But if you have any tips on gathering feedback with the community, on building a community when you are, building a brand within Fortnite, I'm sure the audience would really appreciate any and all you have to share there as well.
Yeah, I think mainly. Oh, go. You want to take it?
I'll preface it by saying, because my community management, since I'm doing a lot of the development, I've just been floored by how awesome, all the other developers within the Fortnite creative community have been. They've been so like to the T. I don't think I've met really. At least I haven't rubbed elbows with any that have been, off-putting. Everyone's just been so nice and so forward with sharing information. Yeah, we try to give back as much as we can as well too, with some of our sort of discoveries along the way. But it's just been incredible to be a part of. There's really meaningful relationships that I feel like I've forged with some folks, and I just really love being involved with everyone across the Fortnite creative space.
Yeah, definitely want to echo that. It's been an incredibly rewarding and inclusive community on the dev side of things. And then on the players and the users and building that core community of fans, it's really just a matter of listening, keeping an open dialogue, observing, and just if every day you can, earn the confidence of one more player is a huge victory. And that's what we try and do.
Very cool. And do you interact with your community mostly within your Discord or on Twitter? What do you recommend for what's been working for you best?
Yeah, Twitter and Discord. And as Seb mentioned, just hopping in the games. And if you are able to communicate that way, that can be hugely effective.
Even if you're Sebastian, you're like, no, I swear, I work here. We've all felt that. I love that.
No, sometimes it's better to not let them know, because then you get the really unfiltered opinions,
That is also a strategy. Love that.
I mean, Seb, that's how you've garnered a lot of feedback for Box Fight, though, isn't it? Just by voice chatting with folks.
Yeah, I hop in there shamelessly. It's not like I'm like, guys, I made this. Give me collab. I'm like, no, it's just like, I genuinely wait for like a natural reaction. A lot of people just leave their mic on without realizing it. So my favorite moment, for example, I was in a sweaty match with a bunch of really good players in our box fight, and they had clearly not been there for a while, because if you look at the scoreboard, there's cumulative stat tracking. And I just heard one guy, like, when the ceilings came down, he's like, man, I love this low ceilings mode. This is like a real piece control box fight. And like just that natural reaction of a core player like enjoying that was enough for me to be like, okay, maybe that mode should happen a little more often. And it's just like gathering kind of these little data points and talking to people, and it's a little awkward, but it's super worth it to just be like, hey, what do you think of this to a player? And I think players really enjoy giving feedback. Like, they're like, it's kind of adds more fun and engagement, especially when they know that maybe their input could result in changes on the map,
That's super helpful. And I saw a question earlier, by the way, about collaboration. Y'all mentioned you've collaborated with different individuals throughout your process. Do you have any tips or tricks for collaborating with others, or for networking within the space that you've kind of unearthed in your experience within UEFN?
It's all been super organic, outreach on Twitter mainly. And then yeah, just connecting, sharing, making sure that there's like-minded ideas creatively, and yeah, it's really just about the enjoyment of just building something cool that that you're both really excited about. But I do think collaboration can have a huge amplification effect, whether you're working with a content creator, either on YouTube or whatever the medium may be, or a streamer. But yeah, I think it's a cool way to reach more eyeballs and potentially yeah, find your audience in Fortnite Creative.
Cool. And for your brand in particular, do you present them with a media kit of sorts, or just kind of like introduce yourselves? I'm sure the backgrounds you all have are quite enticing in terms of, hey, here are all the skills that we have that we would love to contribute with someone. I know, especially when you first got here within this community, I'm sure there was a small amount of selling you had to do in order to gain that trust within the community.
For sure, yeah. I think ultimately, like, the experiences kind of spoke for themselves after a certain point. We actually got a lot of inbound communication just complimenting our work, which we were super flattered by. And then, yeah, but then we needed to, kind of go through that process of, what our workflow is like, the types of experiences we want to make, how our North Star really is the FOD IP. And we're not really interested in deviating from that to do, a totally an offshoot or something that's potentially that's off-brand for us. So yeah, so I think like that's just meeting people, letting them know who we are, what our principles are. I think that's like been hugely valuable for us.
And one last question we have in chat is, what is the best way to learn Verse/UEFN? Do you have any tips or tricks for, you've learned from all different platforms with the different, creative endeavors that you've had across your careers. But do you have any tips for kind of just taking on a whole new language in the case of Verse, of course, Nate, or just a platform in general?
I got my start directly from watching, I believe, Mark, I'm going to butcher his last name, Welbeck, I believe, Warforged Welbeck. You've probably seen his name around. His videos, he actually did a talk at Unreal Fest as well. Just a really brilliant guy. And that really, really is what opened the door for me of oh, wow, all these things this is more possibilities here than I could have ever imagined. And of course, you guys have done a heck of a job too, adding tons and tons of relevant documentation over the last 6 months. To just the core, package on Verse. Like, it's really gotten to the point where it's like, oh yeah, there's even literally this 2 days ago, I saw some very interesting stuff with the UI. Like, I didn't know you could do that, and it was just from the actual documentation that y'all provide. So that was very cool as well. So don't forget to read the manual, kids. This is very important.
Yeah, that API open at all hours of the day.
Right.
Great call out.
Yeah,
and Tina,
one thing I would.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, one thing that really helped me kind of like just jump in is just if you're already using devices, like just take one or two of them and just see if you can try and do it in Verse, or hook it up to a Verse class and then like access its methods through Verse, because it'll just start to acclimate you to like the interconnections there, and you'll find that eventually you can just kind of skip a device entirely with roundabouts with Verse. And I think that was the biggest learning curve for me, was that moment when you realized you could do that, and eventually you'll have a more efficient project for it. So that would be my piece of advice.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And Tina, you have the expertise of the UE side, and I was wondering if you happen to have any questions for this lovely team that might help bring some more insight to the overall experience of development. But no pressure. I just want to loop you in too. I know it's been crazy.
No, it's fine. I have two main ones, honestly. One is a bit more general, but is arguably probably the most difficult question I ever have for anyone. So I'll save it for last. And then the first one is, considering that y'all started out mostly in the engine and then transferred over into the UEFN space, I was wondering if you had any just kind of general words that you would like to give to other devs that are thinking about maybe tiptoeing into UEFN but haven't quite made that jump yet.
For our team, it was just so pleasantly surprising of what just kind of worked instantly. Everything from our materials, our Niagara systems, all of our models, everything just translated pretty much one-to-one. There's a few things here and there you might have had to go tweak a function or something, but it was very, very minimal effort. So it's one of those things, if you're curious at all, it's absolutely worth just jumping. I mean, I can't encourage it more, because the pros are so huge. Being able to develop, you have this giant audience. I mean, bigger than ever, literally 6 years into this game, bigger than ever audience that you can, get your work in front of with relative ease, where in a traditional pipeline, like we were doing before, it's a huge bear to just get a single platform out. So I can't stress enough, from a technical standpoint, being doing a lot of the technical direction, it's so big. And then obviously from a brand exposure, it's also huge. So there's almost, I I don't think I could ever find an argument against doing it, especially like it takes a weekend to dive in and really see what it is. So it's free. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about the rest of you? Any thoughts or ideas? And of course, Nate, if you want to continue, please feel free.
I need to shut up. I talk so much.
You guys are excited, and that we live for that. So thanks for coming on excited and bringing the energy.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much for having us.
Yep.
Yeah,
Of course. Well, Tina,
All right,
you
well-
got the hot cue, the spicy cue.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear
I
this
have
one.
the final cue. It's the one I use at the end of all of the Inside Unreals, and I never tell guests about it because you can't prep for it. I want your honest answer. So through all of your experiences, especially considering how many different experiences in UEFN you've made at this point as well, if you had to distill all of that down into just one piece of advice that you would give other creators, what would that be?
I know
Not
mine.
mine.
Should I go
I
first?
told you.
Yeah.
I
All at
mean,
once.
I think mine fits along the lines of kind of anything, but realistically, like just plan tiny things and just complete them is a huge amount of effort that goes into just finishing something. And there's a huge amount of you just get a lot out of being done with something. So the plan up front is really important, but you can do it quickly and just think small. I mean, it's even it's how you learn to do anything. You don't want to tackle something huge right off the bat. I mean, that's cool. It's a nice lofty goal, but it's so much more rewarding to just complete something, just anything at all.
I should have gone first because that's. I was going to say something very similar. I'm known internally for always saying "ship it," let's just ship it, because you got to hold yourself accountable to deadlines and to milestones. And don't be afraid to fail. It's a play space. Yeah. It's a fun ecosystem to build in, to try new things. So those would be my 2 words of advice.
Nate, you
I
want to
would
go?
say, yeah.
Go ahead.
It's kind of simple, but it's really just don't stop creating. This is a space that's so ripe. The first, Lane Wars, the first one we did, it did okay. It didn't do amazing. We could have gotten discouraged and quit. And there's ups and downs in all development processes. Things can happen all the time. But I would say, Scott and I sometimes just joke ahead that we're too dumb to stop. We just keep banging our head against the wall until something works. But that really is, there's something to having resiliency and endurance and just keep creating, keep making. That's important to thriving and surviving in a space like this. And yeah, that kind of goes along with the don't be afraid to fail. Just keep going, keep your head up.
Yeah, I'll go really quick. Mine's different than the rest. Hopefully it's not as it's maybe less positive, but it's still positive. I was just gonna say you don't need to reinvent the wheel. As creative as we want to be and do brand new genres and stuff, the space is moving in a way that is, first of all, unpredictable, but it's also just maybe not necessarily ripe for certain game genres that you might think. So we tried a MOBA and found out maybe that's not the most applicable. But there's still a ton of room for innovation and a ton of it's a very ripe environment for up and comers, but you don't necessarily need to do something that's so different than what is already working. I think we mentioned Spanky Sully, and shout out to him. I think it's almost the most impressive thing because he made a genre that is on its own in the top charts, as opposed to maybe being, I don't want to say derivative, but inspired by classical genres that work in Fortnite, right? So I would just suggest trying to keep innovation within that threshold to start might be your best bet.
Awesome.
Yeah,
No,
that's
good call out.
awesome. Thank you so much
Not
for
yet,
that.
anyway.
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's going that way for
Eventually,
sure.
right up
It's just
all
It
the-
is.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
thank you. Those were
Well,
wonderful.
Thank you for those questions, Tina. That was awesome. And just because I'm guilty of this sometimes in these long live streams, was there anything else we wanted to cover? Or are we good? Future trash?
I've got like 2 more hours
I
of
left
verse
out?
content I can go through. Just kidding.
All right.
You know, you
Buckle up,
make those for
everyone.
YouTube.
Right.
We need
He's
that.
very
Make it for
responsive
YouTube.
online, so
Yeah.
hit him
Yeah.
Try to be.
But yeah, just wanted to say
Cool.
again, just super grateful to be in this amazing community, and we're really enjoying building, and just keep an eye out for our next maps that we launch.
Yeah, where can everyone find you? Anything else you'd like to point them to? Feel free right now. It's a great time.
Yeah, give us a follow on Twitter and join our Discord if you can, and either one of those will point you in the direction of each other, so you can start in either destination.
At Fode
Yep.
Zone.
And it's at
is the Twitter
Fode
handle.
Zone. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
There we
the
go.
call out to the at Fode Zone. Yeah.
No worries. I just want to make sure no one missed that. And then they also have a website where you can find their Discord. It's linked at the top, so check out the website. Thank you, team, for coming on today, for being so prepared, for sharing so much of the secret sauce with the community. I saw so much positive interaction in chat. Everyone's taking notes and excited, so it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the community. So thank you so much. And thank you, Tina, for coming on, even though you're feeling a little under the weather. Appreciate you so
I
much.
don't know, feel better.
Thank you, Flack, for
Yeah, get some rest.
helping with chat. Thanks, Dan, for running this darn thing. And yeah, I guess that's it for us until after the holiday. So I hope everyone has a wonderful, cozy, relaxing time off. If you get it, I know some people don't. So have a wonderful holiday. And yeah, we'll see you in 2024. Thanks y'all so much, and good
Awesome.
luck,
Yeah.
Fode, on everything you're making, Future Trash. Excited to see what else comes out of there. I can't wait. Huge fan.
Yes.
So.
Thanks so
Cool.
much.
Thank you.
Well,
Happy
bye,
holidays.
All right.
Mhm.
Happy
Thank you so much.
holidays.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.